Some stories begin with joy. Mine began with fear dressed in gold. From the outside, my life looked perfect, but behind palace walls, I learned early that silence was safer than truth, and obedience mattered more than breath. Before you continue reading, please comment where you are watching or reading from. Let us know your country or city so we can connect as one family and continue to pray for each other across the world. I was born into wealth, but not into freedom. I was 16 years old in 2014, living in a large royal home in Saudi Arabia, where the walls were high, the gates were heavy, and my life was planned long before I could understand what life meant. Every morning, servants moved quietly through the halls. Their feet made soft sounds on cold marble floors. They avoided my eyes, not because they hated me, but because looking directly at a princess could bring trouble. I noticed this even as a child. It made me feel lonely in a house that never slept. I wore beautiful clothes, but they felt like costumes. I ate rich food, but my stomach often hurt from fear. I studied lessons chosen for me, lessons about history, language, and manners, but never lessons about choice. No one asked what I wanted to be. Wanting was not allowed. My father was powerful and respected. People bowed when he walked. Guards stood taller when he passed. When he spoke, no one questioned him. He believed tradition was more important than feelings. He showed me through actions that a girl's purpose was to obey and protect family honor, no matter the cost. My mother lived close, but far away. She moved like a shadow, always careful, always quiet. I saw sadness in her eyes many nights, but she never explained it. She showed me how to lower my head, how to stay silent, how to survive without being seen. She taught me fear without using words. Guards followed me everywhere. Religious teachers filled my head with fear, not peace. They spoke often about punishment, obedience, and honor, but never about love or mercy. They told me doubt was dangerous and curiosity was sinful. At night, I lay awake listening to the echo of footsteps in the hall. I wondered why my heart felt empty when my life seemed full. I wondered why I felt watched even when alone. Fear became my daily companion. Everything changed the morning the elders summoned me. They told me to sit. Their faces were serious, their voices calm, as if they were discussing trade or land. One of them revealed to me that my future had already been decided. He showed me documents and family seals. Another explained that this decision was for unity, tradition, and protection of bloodlines. I understood slowly, like cold water rising. They intended to force me into a marriage I could not accept. A marriage that broke something deep inside me. A marriage that went against my conscience, my heart, and the small sense of right I still had. I felt my body go weak. My ears rang. I could not speak. My hands trembled, but I hid them under my robe. I knew refusing was not an option. Refusal meant punishment. Punishment meant disappearance, prison, or worse. Later that day, I was locked in my room under the excuse of rest. Guards stood outside my door. I was no longer a son or a prince. I was a property being prepared. I walked in circles, breathing fast. My chest hurt. I felt trapped in my own skin. I thought of my half-sister, her quiet eyes, her silence. I knew she was not choosing this either. I knew fear ruled both of us. Days passed like years. I was isolated. My phone was taken. My books were checked. My food was watched. A man came daily to remind me of obedience. He warned me of shame and consequences. He showed me stories of others who tried to resist and failed. I knew who they came from. My chest tightened every time I realized she was suffering too. I felt guilt even though I had done nothing wrong. I felt shame even though this was forced on us both. I was allowed to see her once in the presence of elders. We did not speak freely. We did not look at each other for long. Her face looked pale. Her eyes looked tired. I could see fear sitting inside her like a shadow that would not leave. That image stayed with me long after the meeting ended. They warned me not to resist. They showed me stories of people who tried to escape tradition. They revealed how those people lost their freedom, their names, and sometimes their lives. I understood clearly that fear was their strongest weapon. The persecution did not come with beating at first. It came with pressure. It came with isolation. Friends stopped visiting. Books were taken away. Windows were locked. My world grew smaller every day. When I tried to slow down the process, they punished me by removing comfort. My room became bare. The air felt colder. Meals were delayed. Sleep became difficult. These things may sound small, but they were meant to break me slowly. My mind became my worst enemy. I blamed myself for being weak. I blamed myself for being born into this family. I blamed myself for not finding a way out. Fear sat beside me everywhere I went. I remember standing alone in the washing room, staring at my reflection. I barely recognized myself. My eyes looked older than my age. My shoulders felt heavy. I asked myself how a person can be alive but feel erased at the same time. The worst pain was knowing that silence was expected. I was told to smile in public. I was shown how to walk with pride. They wanted the world to see honor, not suffering. Every step I took felt like lying with my body. I felt trapped between fear and conscience. If I obeyed, I would lose myself forever. If I resisted, I would lose everything I had ever known. That choice tore my heart apart every single day. The persecution reached my thoughts. I began to feel watched even when alone. I became careful with every movement. I learned how control can enter the mind and live there. One evening, after another long day of pressure, I sat on the floor and felt empty. I did not know how to fight back. I did not know who would protect me. All I knew was that I could not survive this alone. That night, my suffering reached a point where silence no longer felt safe. Something inside me began to search for hope beyond walls, beyond fear, beyond power. And without knowing how or why, my heart started moving toward a light I had never been taught to see. There comes a moment when fear grows so big that silence can no longer hold it. That moment found me when I was weakest, when my heart was tired of carrying pain alone. I did not plan to change. I only wanted the pain to stop. By this time, my days felt the same. Wake up, obey, pretend, sleep without rest. The walls of the palace no longer looked beautiful. They looked like they were closing in on me. Even the air felt heavy as if it carried my sorrow. The pressure became stronger. The elders increased their visits. They reminded me again and again of my duty. They showed me how everything was already prepared. They revealed that there was no turning back. Each reminder felt like a hand pushing my head underwater. My body reacted to the stress. My chest often hurt. My hands shook more than before. I felt tired even after sleeping. Sometimes I felt dizzy while standing, but I forced myself to stay upright. Weakness was not allowed. I was watched closely. Guards followed me everywhere. Even when I walked in the garden, someone stood close. The flowers bloomed, but I could not enjoy them. Freedom was so near, yet so far. The persecution reached a deeper level. They began to use shame. They made me feel like my fear was a betrayal. They treated my pain as disobedience. They acted as if I was the problem, not the situation. One day I was taken to a quiet room and shown writings meant to scare me. They explained punishment. They revealed consequences meant to crush hope. Their goal was clear. They wanted my spirit broken before my body. That night, I felt completely alone. I sat on the floor with my back against the wall. My thoughts raced. I thought about my childhood, about moments when I felt safe. I thought about my half-sister and wondered how she was surviving. The thought that she was suffering too made my heart ache deeply. I felt helpless. I felt small. I felt like no one could hear me. In that moment of despair, something unexpected happened. I remembered a story I once heard in secret. It was shared quietly by a worker who no longer served in the palace. He revealed to me, long ago, that there was a man named Jesus who cared for the broken, who stood with the rejected, and who gave hope to those trapped by fear. At the time, I did not understand it. I was too young. But now that memory returned. I did not know how to pray. I did not know the right words. But my heart reached out. I asked for help in the only way I could, with tears and honesty. I did not ask for power. I asked for freedom inside my soul. From that night, something began to change. The situation around me stayed the same. The guards were still there. The pressure did not stop. The plan did not change. But inside me, a small light appeared. It was quiet, but it was real. I began to feel less alone. The persecution continued. They increased their control because they sensed my resistance. They restricted my movement more. They watched my face carefully. They punished me with isolation when I did not show enough enthusiasm. Yet even in punishment, I felt stronger than before. I started to believe that my life had value beyond tradition. I began to feel that love was not meant to hurt. This belief frightened them, but it gave me courage. I learned that persecution does not only attack the body, It attacks the mind and soul, and when the soul begins to heal, fear loses its grip. I was still trapped physically, but hope had entered my heart, and once hope enters, darkness can never fully win. There are moments when a life stands at the edge, and one step decides everything. This is the moment where fear tried to finish me, but hope refused to let me fall. What happened next did not remove the danger at once, but it changed who I was forever. I share this as the end of my story and the beginning of my freedom. The days after hope entered my heart became harder, not easier. The people around me sensed that something inside me had changed. I no longer looked fully broken. My eyes carried quiet strength, and that frightened them. The persecution increased. They reduced my movement to almost nothing. I was confined to one section of the palace. Guards stood closer than before. My meals became irregular. Sleep was often interrupted. They used exhaustion as a weapon. They wanted my body tired so my mind would surrender. I was taken for long sessions meant to bend my will. They showed me images of honor and disgrace. They revealed what would happen if I continued to resist. They reminded me that power was not on my side. Each visit ended with warnings meant to steal courage. The pressure became physical. I was pushed, restrained, and held down when I resisted orders. Not violently enough to leave marks, but enough to leave fear. That kind of harm stays inside longer. I was told that my future would move forward whether I agreed or not. That night I felt my strength fading. I sat alone in the dark, shaking. My body felt weak, but my heart held on to the small light I had found. I remembered the love I had learned about. A love that does not force. A love that does not threaten. A love that saves. I leaned against the wall and reached out again, not with fear this time, but with trust. I placed my life, my pain, and my future into the hands of Jesus the only way I knew how. I did not speak fancy words, I simply surrendered. From that moment, peace filled a space inside me that fear once owned. The situation around me did not change overnight. The palace was still dangerous, the plan was still active, but I was no longer alone inside. Soon after, something unexpected happened. A worker who had served my family for years showed me kindness in small ways. He revealed that he had noticed my suffering. Over time, he quietly helped me pass messages and learn safe paths. He showed me that courage can come through ordinary people. An opportunity opened during a family movement outside the palace. Security was distracted. Control weakened for a short moment. With help, I was guided through service corridors and out of sight. My heart raced. Every step felt like my last. Fear followed me, but faith pushed me forward. When I finally crossed into safety, my legs gave way. I fell to the ground and cried, not from pain, but from release. For the first time in my life, I was free from the system that had tried to erase me. The persecution did not fully end. I lost my title. I lost my family name. I lost comfort and wealth. I became a man without protection, hunted by the past, but I gained something greater. I gained my soul. The road after escape was hard. I lived in hiding. I moved often. I learned to survive without privilege. Sometimes hunger replaced fear. Sometimes loneliness replaced control. But even in hardship, I felt alive. Jesus became my strength. When memories attacked me, I found comfort. When fear returned, peace followed. When guilt tried to rise, forgiveness covered me. I learned that persecution does not mean defeat. Sometimes it is the path to truth. Today, I share this story for those who suffer in silence, for those who are trapped by fear, control, and forced obedience, for those who are persecuted because they choose truth over tradition. To Christians across the world, I gently urge you to pray for those who are persecuted for their faith. Remember those who risk everything to follow Jesus. Pray for strength, protection, and freedom for them. And for anyone reading who desires to turn away from sin and turn toward God, I invite you to take a quiet moment. In your heart, acknowledge your need for forgiveness. Believe that Jesus gave his life out of love for you. Ask him to lead your life, to wash your past, and to give you new direction. Choose to walk forward with him, one step at a time. No chain is stronger than grace. No darkness is deeper than light. To every Christian reading this, please do not forget them. Pray for the persecuted. Pray for courage for those who follow Christ in dangerous places. Pray for protection, strength, and divine intervention. Let your faith move beyond words and into compassion. And to anyone who feels broken, trapped by sin, fear, or guilt, know this: freedom is possible. Salvation is not about perfection. It is about surrender. If your heart desires change, turn to Jesus. Ask Him to forgive your sins, to cleanse your heart, and to guide your life. Trust Him with your pain and your future. Walk forward one step at a time. This story ends here, but hope does not end. Light still breaks through darkness, grace still saves the lost, and no matter how deep the suffering, love has the final word.